Hey guys, it's Jen.
And it's Dalton.
And we are so excited to be bringing Remint Reality to IRL in partnership with SHILLR. So today we actually have a pretty fun conversation. I think there has been one brand that I have seen everywhere, not only here at NFT NYC, but also on the timeline. So without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce Zedd, one of the co-founders of Magic Eden. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, bro. Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, you surviving after all of the lovely Magic Eden.
Yeah, I feel like my
yacht
voice
parties.
is like wrecked right now. Yeah, I'm like all raspy after the last couple of days screaming on a yacht.
Bro, I'm so sad that I missed the yacht party. I really am.
You kind of just missed a very shaky, dangerous boat experience.
Was that okay? I actually did see a video on Twitter. Was that the actual like getting on the boat, or was it? Did anybody see that?
No, I didn't
No.
see it.
Okay. Well, we'll have to check.
Maybe it's probably true.
That's epic.
Well, Zedd, before we dig in, I would love it if you could give us some of your background and just your history in the space, and then we'll dig into Magic Eden.
Yeah, sounds good. So I got into crypto in 2017. Everyone kind of comes in at some cycle, right, over the years. Mine was the ICO 2017 cycle.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was working at Coinbase and he was telling me all about Bitcoin, and I was like, oh my God, this shit's crazy. I need to do something about this. So started buying crypto in 2017, and then a couple of years later, felt like I just really wanted to work in the space, right? Just got so interested in it. And I studied finance. I'm like kind of always looked at it from a finance perspective. And I thought, man, if you could have a bunch of these assets on chain, that's like unbelievable. So I ended up joining DYDX. That was my first experience into crypto. And I joined them back in, this was beginning of 2018. So
Wow.
let me just set the scene. Imagine the world where DeFi was not a term, right? It was sort of post ICOs, people were trying to figure out what to do with these tokens. And then there was probably about 5 teams building financial protocols. It was like MakerDAO, DYDX, Compound, Aave. It's kind
Tron.
Yeah.
Ethos.
oh, you know what? It was like EOS. Back then.
Yeah,
EOS. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had some EOS back then.
Even
I-
Ripple.
Ripple, Amise Go, there was like a weird era,
Yeah.
And I joined them because the founder, Antonio, he was looking for like a right hand to run like a lot of the business stuff because he was an engineer,
Right.
and I was like, I could do that. My background isn't. I was at Bain & Company doing consulting, so like I can do something here. Like, hopefully, I can contribute something.
Right.
So I joined them, spent 3 years there, built a lot of the early, a lot of the infrastructure, which now is a big perpetuals trading product. But back then we did all kinds of things. We did like margin tokens, we did margin trading, we did
All
spot
the
trading
degen
dexes.
stuff.
Yeah, all of this stuff, right? So it's crazy to see how far DeFi has come since then. Because back then we used to celebrate 30 users or something.
Right.
You're like, we have 30
We were like, oh my
daily
God,
active
like,
users today.
$30,000 is trading on the platform. This is insane. Like, who would do this, right? And then, so anyway, that was like 3 years, and amazing journey because I learned a lot. I met a lot of the OGs who were building a DeFi, all this kind of stuff. And then after that, I wanted to just experience something at scale and also work closer to product. So I had an opportunity to join the product team at Coinbase. So I spent about a year and a half building out the institutional trading experience.
So is this like Coinbase Pro?
This is at Coinbase, what's called Coinbase Prime today.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like they're like full institutional product.
What was the one? It used to be called GDAX?
GDAX, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically Coinbase had this GDAX thing, and then it became Coinbase Pro. Then they were like, oh, we need to serve these other like higher.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I haven't
institutions.
even seen Coinbase Prime.
No.
I
Yeah,
guess.
it's for like hedge funds and asset
Got it.
managers and like TradFi basically. And I joined them because I was like, I like building trading stuff, and if I can do it at scale, and back then it was kind of like the first institutional wave, right?
Yeah.
It was like Elon was buying Bitcoin, and like Michael Saylor was buying Bitcoin, and that was all insane to see sort of pretty firsthand. And so anyway, I was building the trading products there, and then that was around the time that me and my co-founders were basically degenning on a bunch of things on the outside, as we all do. And it was, I can go into that story too, but like that's sort of how we got together and eventually became Magic Eden, but we were kind of just like users ourselves. You know?
Right.
I was like,
bro, that's insane to kind of hear. Even just going back to those days, right? Like I also got in 2017, early 2017, and just seeing kind of these verticals that exist now that didn't exist back then.
I mean, stable coins didn't exist back then.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, and it's the way that I kind of try to explain it nowadays is like we have all these different verticals, right? So you have like crypto, like the big daddies. You have like Bitcoin, Solana, ETH, and then you have like the ETH L2s and all of that, like fragmentation that's going on there. But then on top of that, you have NFTs, you have NFTFi, you have DeFi. Like you have all these different verticals that all pump at different times, which back in the day we didn't have that. It was like you had the big daddy season, and then you had alt season.
Yeah, alt season.
And then you had crashes.
And then the crashes. And then nothing would happen for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then like, DeFi summer.
Yeah.
And then the wave came. And then the NFT wave came. And then the NFTFi wave came. And now I'm just like, you have so many, like rotator season is actually, it's not a meme. Like I mean, it's actually
this
very
thing
real.
right now where, probably, I don't know if you guys feel it too, but it's like you cannot focus on everything that's going on. Right?
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it's like base season, soul meme coins, ordinals.
Blast.
Blast. It's just like back then there was none of that, right?
Right.
Exactly right. It's Bitcoin or alt season, and that's it. And now it's an amazing problem to have, right, in the industry. Because it was hard to see it back then when we were building sort of that first initial wave of DeFi protocols. We didn't know what it would become.
Right.
And it's funny now. It's like, MakerDAO DAI wasn't around. Like, it was just really, really different. So you couldn't really do much. But now it's actually amazing to see the flourishing of all these little like small pockets of activity.
Right.
In one of the panels that we did, someone had mentioned like they finally feel like crypto is at a point where we're going to have a massive shift because all of this infrastructure that wasn't there in 2018 is now in place. Do you have the same sentiment?
I think so. I still think it'll continue to go in waves and cycles and things. And, we feel pretty strongly, like with high conviction around this, obviously, because we're building an NFT marketplace, but we still think that NFTs are kind of the consumer moment for crypto. Yeah. And it'll take some time to manifest in a bunch of different ways. Like it may not manifest in just the pure PFP way that everyone thought, but we have high conviction around it because NFTs as a standard can birth a lot of different types of assets.
Right.
And we just want to be that discovery layer, marketplace, transaction layer for all of that. So we have high conviction about that, but how it's going to play out, it's very, very hard to say.
Of course. Yeah. Take us back to September 2021.
Yep.
So you guys launch ETH NFTs at this point were, like we were talking about these different verticals, right? So ETH NFTs were having a season. People are paying attention. People are paying crazy amounts of money for cartoon JPEGs and things like that. You guys decide to launch on Solana.
Yep.
Now, take us back to the early Solana days. Like, obviously, the early Solana degens remember Degenerate Ape Academy, the paper-handed bitch tax for D-gods, things like that. Like those kind of like.
Wow, we're getting like waves of nostalgia.
Yeah, bro. It was fun back then. It was just it was like the anti-ETH NFT kind of movement.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to the early days and kind of what you saw? Why did you launch on Solana?
Yeah. Okay. So this goes way back to I think 2019 when I was at DYDX, and I got to know one of the folks on the Solana team, Dom, who's no longer at Solana, but he was instrumental, I think, in a lot of the growth of the ecosystem. And we got to know each other at one of the conferences, and he was like, "Hey, Solana's having like one of their first like events in San Francisco. Do you want to come like talk on a panel about DeFi?" So that was my first sort of introduction to the ecosystem. Met Anatoly and met some of the early team, and I was like, "Oh, it's interesting because these guys seem really legit. It's not like some of these altcoin teams from back in 2017 where you were like."
What do you do?
Mirrors, like what's going on right now? But these guys seemed really legit, and I always kind of felt like, cool, if they could pull off this technically, like it would be very, very interesting to build on that. And I was thinking from a DYDX perspective, I was like,
right, of course,
performant, pro trading, perpetuals trading, all this kind of stuff, right? So then fast forward to 2021, ETH NFTs were ripping. DeFi was kind of just getting started on Solana. A lot of teams were getting funded, right? And one of the big catalysts that I saw was that some of the early teams that I got to know building on DeFi on Ethereum, a couple of them had moved and started building on Solana. And these were people I trusted and like knew well.
Right.
And I was like, yo, why are you guys doing that? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, this is not just like a fad or something.
You're like, this is a signal.
Yeah,
of some
yeah,
sort.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's like you guys are like actually moving and building a company here. And which is very contrarian at the time because it was like back then, EVM was, major. It was the only.
Yeah, it was the thing.
Yeah. So then, okay, so that was happening. That was the background, and then myself and my co-founders, we started we were like yield farming and trading and all these different things on Solana, on a bunch of different chains, and it was just fun. Like I think a lot of what people are experiencing or have been experiencing in the last 6 months with meme coins, like, oh, you can do this and it's just really fast and it's like really instant.
No gas fees.
Yeah, no gas fees. It's cheap. It's like, whoa. I really felt that at the time, because trading ETH NFTs was pretty brutal back then, and
Still brutal.
Still brutal. And being able to do that on Solana, I was like, wow, this is crazy. There's something here. So then we weren't setting out to just start a Solana company. That was not actually what we were trying to do at the time. It was kind of just like, hey, we really like NFTs as a space and a category. What can we do? Is there something we can do here that's different? And that led us down the path of like, okay, if there's something technically different we can build on Solana that has different properties just because the chain is different, there's enough legs there that maybe we can make something out of that, right? And we thought we were actually too late. Because
Solana.
Yeah, because it sounds crazy to say that, but because so ETH NFTs had was already like in the midst of the run. Solana NFTs, there were some really crazy mints, like DJ and Ape Academy had already happened. Solana Monkey Business had already happened.
Dude, SMB was
SMBs, all these like pretty good collections had already gone out, and there was already 3 or 4, established, quote unquote, established marketplaces on Solana. So we thought maybe we're too late, but in the end we decided to go for it, which I'm really glad we did. And we got a little like group on Discord together. It's like a little beta group of like 20 people we met in the community who were like degenning alongside us. And we were like, hey, we're building this thing. Can you guys like test it out? The 4 of us got together over like 2 weeks, just like hacking nights, weekends, just any spare time that we had. And we put it out there, and then, the rest is kind of history.
Insane.
But it was
insane.
Chaotic time. Like, I mean, you were there doing
Yeah.
stuff in Solana. It was mental. Yeah.
Well, and so my question here, because this is obviously a trend that you guys have kind of followed throughout, like the through line of Magic Eden, building on ecosystems with very little infrastructure. This is something that we're seeing right now with ordinals, and like we're obviously going to get into that pivot. But I want to kind of ask, like, what were the early experiences over there of building on Solana with very little infrastructure? And are there similarities now that you're seeing to the early Solana NFT ecosystem to the ordinals ecosystem that you guys are building in today?
Yeah, it's definitely a massive challenge. Yeah, on Solana back then, there was not a way to denote a collection on chain, which seems crazy. So like, I'll give you a tangible example of what that means. If like SMBs, for example, for us as a marketplace to list the collection, we had to go ask SMBs to give us a list of hashes,
right,
which we would then upload and then display it. There was no way to say like that 10,000 things belong to this collection.
Like you couldn't just put in a contract
address.
address.
Yeah, you can't like index it like you normally can now,
right.
Like on chain. It just wasn't built yet, right? It was crazy. Minting, there was no minting infrastructure.
Well, it was Metaplex came out, and that was like the big.
That was a huge moment.
But which DJ and Ape Academy was the first mint.
Yeah,
right?
but before that, it was just dudes in Discord saying like, yo, I'll be your dev.
I remember this, bro.
You don't want to, I'll be your dev. It's like, you never want to talk to that guy.
I think I just grew like 3 gray hairs hearing you say that.
Look at my gray hair.
Yeah,
This is like me talking to people who are asking me to be their dev. It was that kind of time. So that was actually one of the rationales for us building a launchpad. Because so many creators we talked to were like, yo, like we want to launch something. We don't exactly know how to use this Metaplex stuff, even though it was good technology, but they couldn't actually productize it. And they didn't want to use a random dev on Discord.
Right.
So we were like, okay, cool. We can build like this thing that connects the smart contracts to actual minting experience that you can give to your users. So we were trying to solve that problem for creators. That's how Launchpad came about, right?
Right.
It was birthed because there was just a lack of
There's a need.
tooling. Yeah,
Yeah.
lack of tooling, and that ended up being an amazing, huge product for us alongside the marketplace.
Insane, dude. And like the early, I remember this. Like I was such a big user, and I was just like, I was consistently using y'all's marketplace, and like I was an everyday user, right? And like I want to touch on the opportunity to go cross chain presented itself. We're in like the depths of the bear market, and you guys decide to go over to ETH, right? And like this was a very difficult decision, I'm sure, internally, because like you guys had such a sparkling reputation within the Solana community, and you kind of dampened that with going over to ETH, and people were like, dude, like Frank leaves, Magic Eden leaves, like how does that kind of sit with you? And like I'm more so interested in like, obviously you had Tensor come in as well, and like that's a great team that has like has proven track record now. Like, was the move because you saw more potential on ETH, or was this also a move that you're like, fuck, we're losing some market share from Tensor? Like, I kind of want to hear the story on why ETH NFTs.
Yeah. It's a really good question, and like, I haven't really been asked it this way, so we can definitely like we can like unpack it. It's like there's a lot in there, right? I think so. Fundamentally, I think like the first thing is that we always felt like NFTs would, not just NFTs, actually crypto would just be multi-chain. Just we always felt that way, and from the very very early days, when maybe 3 or 4 months into Magic Eden, we always said to ourselves like, hey, the earliest opportunity we can get to ETH, we got to go do that. That's the home. That's the cultural home of NFTs. There weren't really any other chains really with active ecosystems, so we always thought like we got to go to ETH as well at some point. So we always believed that. And with the whole, one thing I do regret about like how we actually went multi-chain, and this is like hindsight's 2020. It's like easy to say now,
Always.
but I really regret sort of the comms of how we communicated it to the community, because we were at the time we were definitely sort of like the rising star of Solana, all this kind of stuff, which we were very like humbled to be in that position. And us moving multi-chain was not actually about abandoning Sol, but it really came off like that because I think we did not create the intentional comms that were necessary.
Of like multi-chain is always a part of our grand vision.
Exactly.
Me
as a founder, or us as co-founders, communicating that actively, laying that out, like why that's in our vision, why that's actually beneficial for the Solana ecosystem too, because we'll go out, pull in a bunch of users who then will come and use all our multi-chain suite, which obviously includes Solana, right?
Yeah.
We want to grow everything. But that, we did not communicate that, and I think that's a really big lesson for me now as like a leader in the company, in the space. It's like you need to actually really over-articulate a lot of these things internally in the company, so the company gets it, but also to the community, so the community gets it and understands, right? And that, I think, coupled with the fact that all of this happened post FTX, which that timing was not at all related.
Right.
We were building a lot of this EVM stuff even before the FTX stuff happened. But when it came out like that with bad comms, everyone was kind of just like, yo, you guys are just abandoning ship at the worst possible time. And that's something I do really, really regret quite a lot, because we as a team are not the kind of team that is like that. We're like really long-term people.
Right.
Like people over the years of Magic Eden, we could have sold the company a couple of times because people were interested. So we could have like gone away and made a bag, but like that's not what we're about. We're here because we want to grind, and we like really believe in making this really big.
Right.
But that was like something we didn't know how to communicate at the time, and I really regret that actually, because then it sort of took probably about a 12-month period of maybe even longer for us to rebuild that reputation.
Yeah.
I think we're it's getting
Coming
better
back,
now. And people are starting to see that, these like Magic Eden they're like hardcore builders, like they'll go out there and like do some really hard, crazy stuff. That's what I want to be known for. That's what I want the team to be known for, because that's who we are actually, right? We're not shying away from things that are hard.
It's interesting because like, it's funny. I was red-pilled into Solana much later, thanks to this one. Yeah. I also was red-pilled into NFTs way after like that initial NFT wave. I was more on like the meme coin, shit coin side of like thriving, living my best life, losing money. It was great. But one of the things that is really apparent now is like there are a lot of EVM builders that are hesitant to go over to Solana because they're like, it's Rust. It's a completely new, like we don't have the infrastructure internally. And to see you guys go from Solana to EVM and now Bitcoin, like that takes a lot of technical talent within the team. And I think like that in itself speaks, like it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool that you're as reflective on what happened post FTX and this transition over as you are, because I think there are a lot of founders that would have just like tried to, you know, brush it under the rug. And it's nice to hear it from your perspective.
No, for sure. It's like over the almost 3 years now we've been building this company. There's so many of these examples where it's like, wow, we could have done things a lot better. And the important thing I think for us is what we try to do, at least amongst the founders, is like not only reflect on what those things were, but what are the lessons to draw from it, which then ultimately become kind of like values in the company, right? There's like so many I can name. Like I don't. You probably remember this as an early Solana person, the Balloonsville situation. Like there was a huge hyped
bro, and I love seeing like in the comments, like they'll all just post a balloon and everybody's like,
It was like huge hyped mint, and everyone was excited about it, and it was like an immediate rug. And
atrocious.
It was terrible. And this was 2 months into the company.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I thought we were done as a company. And we ended up like refunding everyone the money, all this kind of stuff. And it was a very hard decision, but ultimately the right one, right? And we codified that as a cultural value, which is like, if you have to choose between users and something else, you stick to the users. And that's a manifestation of that, of like us doing a very hard thing when we also did not have any money back then, but we did that because it was the right thing to do, and that set us up for
growth. Dude, I think this is something, even as a trader, like I'm very active in the space and like across ecosystems, right? Like we're EVM, Solana, Bitcoin. Like I think like you find these opportunities that always exist. And like on the flight here, I've told you this story already, but like I got texted about Depe, the DGen Pepe, and it ran 100x. And then I also, in the same flight that I didn't have Wi-Fi on, I missed 1000x, right? And that was MFR that came out. And I was like, MFR. Dude, like I was on it's the same flight. I'm like, dude, are you serious? But
you need to fly more.
I know. I'm gonna send somebody a message like, "Yo, here's 5 ETH. Like, I'm flying. Like, whatever you buy, just do it."
I can be that guy.
Yeah. But I think one of the crazy parts about this is just like there is such an abundance of opportunity that exists in the space. Now, that being said, there are also a lot of bad actors. But navigating that as a launchpad, as a marketplace, as a cross-chain marketplace, like I think you guys have done a very good job of maintaining reputation amongst your users, right? Like, yes, you've taken some hard lessons, took them on the chin, refunded money, done those things. But this pivot to Bitcoin, I want to kind of double click on this because like we said, you guys have a reputation for building infrastructure for new ecosystems, right? Ordinals come out, and this is what, 15 months ago?
Yeah.
More or less?
Yep.
15 months ago, Ordinals come out. This is like a huge new wave. People are like buying things like free mints, and like there's no infrastructure, and like there really wasn't much of anything over there. And you guys decide to build a marketplace. Yeah. Can you kind of go into what was the beginning of Ordinals? What did you see, and like how did that go about, and how quick was that turnover?
Yeah. I'll answer this a couple of ways. One with like the actual like storyline of everything, of like the timeline, but I also want to talk a bit about like what is the ethos internally for us as founders and as the company that even drives us to do something like that, right? And I'll start with that one because I think it's interesting. One of the things we really believe is that because crypto is like the way it is, what you just described, it's greenfield everywhere.
Always.
Yeah.
Always greenfield everywhere. Even in a bear market, it's like that, right? Because last year, Ordinals, it was a huge bear market in NFTs. And we always feel that it's very, you cannot make good intuitive decisions about what to build, what not to build, unless you are deeply, deeply in the ecosystem.
100%.
Right? So we have this saying in the company that we tell all of the leaders in the company, you cannot make decisions from an ivory tower, right? Which is basically saying that if you are up in the clouds somewhere thinking about like strategy or something, but you're not actually using the products that are out there. Like
You're not in the trenches.
Yeah, you're not on Farcaster, doing a bunch of stuff there with DGen. You're not like on ordinals with OMBs. You're not.
My girlfriend got onboarded to crypto via DGen, and so now but like what you're saying like points to like onboarding people that aren't here, right? Like being in the trenches.
Exactly, and you have to just experience it, use it, right? That's what gives you the intuition and then also the conviction to make very hard bets like this.
Yeah,
because you cannot, I was a consultant where everything we did was so meticulously analyzed, like every decision was like, here's the 30-page deck of all the analysis about why we should do X or Y. You cannot do that in crypto.
Right.
Like it just moves so fast that 2 weeks from now, it could be totally something different.
Yeah.
Right? So the only way to actually internalize and make good decisions is it starts with having good foundations of intuition. Right. So that's close to the users. So then I'll sort of explain why I told that story, because for ordinals, we had 2 people in the company that were like, hey guys, we should look into this. And this is like very unexpected who they were. It was our general counsel, right? Our like top lawyer and our head of security.
No way.
Yeah.
Like
and
not the product guy.
not the product guy, not me. It was our general counsel and head of security.
No way.
And I just want to tell that story because that should give you and everyone a picture of the types of people we hire in the company, right?
Yeah.
You can't just hire really like credentialed people or something. Obviously you want credentialed people as well, but they have to be credentialed and they have to be in it. They have to love it, right? Because you'll go through ups and downs. You have to love 100%. This stuff. So our general counsel, Joe, came from Fenwick, extremely credentialed lawyer.
Dude, I'm so shook.
Yeah.
This is such a crazy, happening to me.
He was like, he lives in New York. He's an OG Bitcoin guy, like just, goes to Bitcoin, has been going to Bitcoin meetups for ages. And he was like, hey guys, I'm in this thing called an Ordinals Discord. There's like 30 people in here. It seems really interesting. We should take a look. And we were like, what is this?
Right.
And then we were like, okay, cool. And then 2 days later, he was like, hey, guys, I gave someone 3 ETH for a JPEG that they might send me later. Because back then there was no way to buy ordinals.
No, this is the Discord thing. Spreadsheets and shit.
He was literally, this is pre-spreadsheets. He was just giving someone money and then, because it was interesting, right? And then a couple of days go by, we look into it more. Chart Monkey on our team, who's a big community guy, is in it, and he's talking to everyone, meeting people. There's a lot of excitement, right? Because this is the first time that you could see a DApp or ecosystem or use cases forming on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And but any kind of analysis that you wanted to do, you would never make the decision to build it, right? Because we were Solana was pretty tough. We had launched on EVM, it was pretty tough. Polygon, the gaming stuff was not taking off. Magic Eden had just done a layoff at the beginning of 2023, right? So as a company, we were kind of in a tough spot. We were trying to refocus, reprioritize everything, just stick to the core. So any rational actor would probably not do it. But deep down, we kind of just thought, it's Bitcoin. How can you fade Bitcoin? And if this technically works, that we could actually build infrastructure that enables a marketplace, if we could actually pull that off, then this could be really big. So we should make that bet. And that was about 10 days after Joe, our GC, had first told us about ordinals.
I absolutely love this story because I remember last year ordinals came about and I was trying to buy an ordinal. I was looking at threads. I was looking at all these posts that people were making. And quite frankly, I was like, this is too fucking hard. It's too complicated. I'm slammed at my day job right now. I was working in NFT lending and I was like, whatever. It is what it is. And actually just recently I used Magic Eden to mint ink on BTC and I used Magic Eden to do some flips and do some trades and buy some overpriced inks because I buy for art and that's why my bags are down very bad and it's okay. I'm proud of it. But between the infrastructure that you guys had for just the marketplace and also the Magic Eden wallet, the Magic Eden wallet is now my BTC wallet. It's incredible. And like for someone like me who's like, I would say I'm fairly fluent in the space. I use DeFi platforms. I do all the farming stuff. I just think like this is what's going to onboard people into like BTC, ordinals, and DeFi. So it was a great bet that you guys made.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, like we didn't even talk about the spreadsheet trading as well. There was a whole like few weeks there, people were just trading on spreadsheets. This is when we were building our marketplace, and we were like, oh my god, but this can't come out sooner. It can't come soon enough.
Well, and like ordinal punks and everything, dude, that was insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
So no, it was it was an amazing bet that we made, and really proud of the team who pulled it off as well, because it wasn't obvious at the time.
Right.
How long did it take you guys to build out all of that? Like, and then was Magic Eden Wallet always a part of like that roadmap, or?
Yeah, good question actually. So all the Bitcoin stuff we built, like just the marketplace, we probably built that over 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
No way.
We basically got Rex, who's one of my co-founders, and he's like absolute 1000x engineer. Like he's the best like protocol guy that we have. And he built most of the back end, like all of the stuff that touches the chain, and then we had another one of our engineers build the front end, and we had a little squad of like 4 or 5 people just working on it. 2 guys in the community, 2 engineers. Then that was like maybe 2 weeks of work. They got maybe 60-70% of the way. Then the last 30% is always the hardest, right? The last 10% is always the hardest.
Dotting the T's and crossing it. Or
so what we did.
The T's.
I hope you're not dotting T's.
No, it's 3 hours of sleep. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then what we did to kind of just get that last mile was we said to the company, like, hey guys, we're making this bet, and these guys have been working on it, and we're going to host a hackathon internally, which any engineer in the company can come to if you want to. But we're going to work on ordinals to get this thing out the door.
No way.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we rented an Airbnb in California, and we had like maybe 12 engineers fly in for it who wanted to come.
No way.
Dude, I'm getting like early Facebook vibes, like that scene from Social Network, the hacker house.
Yeah, they came in, they hacked on it for a week in this house, and then the next Tuesday we launched.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What was that first? Because like, take us back to early ordinals. Like, I was there, and props to you for taking the bet. Like, I was working for Proof at the time, and I remember having a conversation, and I was like, BRC20s had just come out, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, the shitcoin market we never knew we needed. And I posted that tweet when Ordi was minting, and I didn't mint. Dude, if I would have put $100 in, that would be like $5.3 million or something like that.
Oh,
and I tweeted about it instead of actually buying.
This guy's like an anti-signal.
Dude, literally, I'm like, I'll tweet something. Oh.
See, that's why it's like he makes fun of me for buying things because I like the art, and I'm like,
at least you buy it. But like, take us back to the early moments, like the first few launches that you guys had. Like, can you kind of, because a lot of these collections were minting for free, or they were holding off for infrastructure because they took, like they inscribed on the BTC blockchain, but then they didn't do anything with the collections. And like, similar to what you're talking about with on the Solana early days, like you couldn't index collections and stuff like that. Like, doing research on early ordinals was a total shit show. And because like the first 10K, like you had you had Bitcoin shrooms, you had like different kind of collections that existed. But like the early days, it was like, if you were inscription like sub 10K, that's like a kind of a different thing.
The metas were almost different.
Completely different to now. Like
to now, because back then actually it's you're right. It's like forced upon us because we could not do certain things, right? So you could not create a collection back then. It was impossible to create like a 10K collection. So what people were doing, they were just like inscribing stuff as early as possible, and then they wanted to just buy stuff that were low inscription numbers. So back then, one of the first things we actually shipped was not like collection pages. It was sub 1K,
sub 1K,
5K,
sub 10K,
sub 10K inscription. And people would browse those as the collection pages. And we still have them. So if you look on the page today, it's just like a bunch of random
random
stuff. It's like, you cannot comprehend it. You know, it's not coherent at all. It's just random people inscribing random things. But people really valued that for a while. And then I think then we built the launchpad also for ordinals, and that made it a lot easier for creators to basically then do some pre-inscription and then launch it using our launchpad. So that started sort of people getting onto more of a traditional collection.
Right.
But now we have the whole gamut. It's kind of like some people drop like, you know, art thing, like 10 item art things. Some people drop like large collections. Some people drop like really, really low inscription number, one of ones. We also launched this thing called rare sats.
I saw that.
We've gone so deep on Bitcoin. It's kind of crazy. It's like, sometimes I think back, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's
all because of Joe and those 10 days.
Crazy, yeah. We've got these rare sats now, which is, for people that may not be familiar, it's like different properties that are linked to the individual Satoshis. They were involved in certain like famous transactions, right? Like this
Pizza
was
sats.
the pizza sats. It was, you know, Satoshi's first transaction, stuff like that. So we have a marketplace where you can trade those Satoshis as well. And the really interesting thing that we have going on at the moment is that creators who want to launch on ordinals, they will go on Magic Eden, they will acquire and buy the rare sats that they want. Then they will inscribe their stuff onto those rare sats and then launch those collections. So it's really cool. Like the properties here are really interesting. It's very different to what we see on ETH and Sol.
Right. Well, and Commoners was one of those, right? That they were one of the first ones that was it was a 10K collection that was minted on all uncommon sats, which was like a big thing. Like that, I think that's something that is very attractive to the ordinal ecosystem. And now I kind of want to get your take on what you're seeing as a builder of ordinals. How do you see this developing? Like, if we go back to early ETH days, ETH NFTs blew up, right? And there was a lot of lending volume. Like, people were like, this is like NiftyFi comes in, and then there's like NiftyFi, BendDAO came in, and that was a huge unlock. And then you had Arcade, and like people were just leveraging up and then pushing up higher prices. Now, the thing that's really interesting about Bitcoin is you have these Bitcoin whales that are ancient. And we just saw one the other day. It was yesterday, actually. Somebody swept $1.3 million worth of Bitcoin puppets and node monkeys. And I was like, holy shit. Like this dude's wallet.
Next level. Yeah.
He hasn't been active in 5 years. And then he comes in and or they, she, I don't know. They come in and I wanted to be proper here. They came in and they swept $1.3 million worth of NFTs, right?
Yeah.
How do you kind of see this happening? And also, what angle does NFT finance play in this? Like, we've seen Liquidium come in, and now they've done over 700 Bitcoin in volume since inception. They've done 50 BTC of volume just this week. So, like, we're starting to see people leverage up, right? And, like, Liquidium is kind of similar to Sharkify over on Solana. So, it's just like a week or 16-day loan that you can take. So you can't really take long leveraged up loans, but there is an opportunity there for somebody to come in. There's obviously an appetite there. So I guess my question would be like, how do you see ordinals developing? Like, are we going to see a similar kind of PFP run that we saw on ETH back in the day? And also, what angle do you think NFT finance plays in this?
Yeah, I think, so my broad macro perspective is that I'm very excited for Bitcoin to have like a full-on ecosystem. That's what we actually are really excited about. Ordinals was the first inclination that could be possible. The first it's like a generation of fees outside of, you know, for miners, right? Like, and that as a possibility would be insane. And that's why I think a lot of been a really big theme recently the last couple of months of like building Bitcoin L2s. So there's a bunch of teams that are trying to do that now. We've met them all, like excited about that space too. And then when you go into like NFTs in particular, there is basically the trend now, I think, is a lot of artists and creators are coming in from the other ecosystems to basically try it out. Now that you can do pretty much everything that you've wanted to do. And we're starting to see sort of like, all the normal things you would expect around an NFT ecosystem also build. And we are honestly pretty pumped for all of that because that shows that it just adds more maturity into the market.
Yeah.
Right?
Like BTC DeFi is becoming a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the reason that gets me really excited is because you've always wanted that in Bitcoin, right? That's always been the dream because you have the most decentralized chain, all the properties that make it amazing, but you've never really been able to build anything on it. So when you think about the possibility of like merging those two worlds together, that's insane to me. That blows my mind.
I mean, that's the only reason why Ethereum came about with like programmable smart contracts and all of that
exactly,
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was at an event last night with one of our investors, Electric Capital, and I was talking to one of the guys there, and he framed it in a really good way, which I'm going to steal from him because he's a gigabrain. And he said that it's almost like a changing of the guard in terms of Bitcoin development, because previously the prior generation has been very they've been kind of like pretty against just like building things on top, right? And it's been kind of very stodgy almost.
Yeah.
But you have this new wave of people who've been coming in the last 12 months or so that are like very passionate about trying to build an ecosystem on top and trying all these different things, ordinals, all these L2s, all kinds of stuff. And if that can be pulled off, that actually is insane. So we're just happy to be a part of it, to be honest. We are really, really active trying to help anyone who's trying to build on Bitcoin at the moment, because we've done a lot of the really hard yards at the beginning of bootstrapping like something that was pretty hard. So if anyone is now doing it, we want to be part of that ecosystem and want to help them. And that's sort of, I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think now it's really accelerating the number of developers on Bitcoin.
Dude, it's insane. And just to see like how unit bias plays a huge role on Bitcoin, right? Like you'll mint something for 0.03 Bitcoin. You're like, oh, 0.03 Bitcoin. And then you're like, holy shit, that's a lot of money, right? Like there's this unit bias that you don't necessarily understand. And I guess we see it on ETH compared to Sol and stuff like that. But on Bitcoin, it's a whole nother level.
The other thing I would say as well is that the cost of it all, like it is obviously really expensive to do stuff on Bitcoin relatively, and the cost of it all is actually like a feature, because you don't get, like if you are like I'll give you just the most extreme example. If you are trying to scam and you want to create a scam collection or like a scam meme coin, you're just not going to do it on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? It's like too expensive, it's too hard. So there's almost this natural barrier to prevent like really, really egregious bad stuff. But it's easier to do that on other chains. Right. Which is fine. It's like just trade-offs.
Yeah.
But on Bitcoin, it's like less likely. And we actually see that because, our teams are out there talking to creators, talking to people, and it's just true. Like you don't get as much scammy like bad behavior because it's prohibitive, naturally prohibitive.
In Bitcoin, like transacting on Bitcoin right now is like kind of painful.
Yeah.
Like very slow.
Yeah.
Well, and like what role does centralization play in some of this stuff? So like I said, I've been trading ordinals quite a bit, and something I've noticed is like it's tough. Like there are bids, like you guys do have bids that you can dump into bids if you want to do that. And there's different ways that you can go about transacting and building on Bitcoin or building a portfolio or whatever the case may be, right? Now, I think something I'm pretty interested in hearing your kind of take on is like, what role does centralization play on Bitcoin? Reason I ask that is like transaction speeds are atrocious. It takes 30 minutes for anything to go through. Now, if I sell something, I end up getting BTC in my wallet, right? Like that is something on the front end that like I see, but how does that actually work on the back end?
Yeah. I mean, transactions take like
forever,
20 minutes or something.
Yeah. Well, and then like you have this CPFP, child pays for parent kind of transaction that you can push through. And like, that's like after you push through a transaction and it's taking 40 minutes, you're like, well, fuck it. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's hard to say if centralization is going to play a part. It will probably play a part for some things. Like even some of these Bitcoin L2s, they're not true roll-ups, right? It's not like optimism or something on Bitcoin.
Right.
It's more like people are trying to connect EVM Solidity into Bitcoin, or like maybe some of the guys are doing like a multi-sig, right, basically. So it's not true rollups. So we'll see how that all plays out. So there's definitely a degree of centralization as if you want to do something on an L2, for example. There are other people who are exploring things on using Lightning to make transactions faster.
Got it.
I'm not like deep enough in that to be able to really talk about it, but I do think that it just won't be the chain that you do everything on. That's kind of my thesis, just at more like a macro level. It's like, if you want to be doing something like launching a bunch of meme coins and like trading really quickly, trading perpetuals, you're probably just not going to do that on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really make sense to do it. And eventually, maybe in 2 years, you could do it, but you will be taking more centralization relatively than, say, doing it on Ethereum or an L2 on Optimism or whatever, right? So so I always think about it as like you pick the right like base level infrastructure for the use case that you have. And that's why I'm excited that we are like building some stuff that's multi-chain. Because it doesn't, for us, it doesn't matter what the use cases are. We just kind of want to be able to support it, right? From a pure like user level. So if a user wants to do something that's like, extremely high provenance, expensive thing, and they're happy to do it on Bitcoin, great. Like, come and do that. If you want to like flip a 200,000 item collection on Solana, come and do that. Like, it's all good,
Okay, but what about, and Dalton, you can dig into this. What about meme coins on Bitcoin? Like, I think we're seeing like...
I think it's coming.
It's coming.
We don't think it's coming. It is coming.
It's coming. Yeah.
All I know is I need more exposure to pups. That's like all I know.
There we go.
But yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I'm still trying to wrap my head around as I'm starting to explore ordinals, BTC, DeFi, and all of that stuff is like, obviously there's BRC20s, which is, the meme coin equivalent. But then I think it was a couple of months ago, the guy who made ordinals created that ordinal thing that got dropped, and now people are mining runes, and like runes is like comparative to BRC20. Like,
so BRC20s are atrocious to use. If we're just going to be completely honest, like BRC20s are horrible to use. Like there's no partial fills. Like if somebody puts up a sell wall on,
I have some BRC20s in my wallet now that I'm like, I'm scared to like, I don't know what to do with them.
Well, no, you can't sell them.
It's very hard to.
They're very difficult to use. Like there's no partial fills. Like if somebody puts up a sell wall, like, and we're talking about pups, right? Pups has like 77% of the collection is BRC20, and then the other 23% of the collection is pre-rune NFTs. They're basically ERC404s, basically, that like represent a specific amount of fungible tokens as like an NFT, right? Well, somebody the other day put like a $42,000 sell on Pups. Oh, wow. And like, it was like, somebody has to buy $42,000 worth, or like the price will not pass that. Right. And like, this is something that it's atrocious. Yeah. Now runes are coming in, and this launches on block 840,000, which is going to be the halvening.
Yep.
What are you feeling about runes, fungible tokens? How is this going to work out for you? Like, what are you guys thinking at Magic Eden? Like, how are you kind of positioning yourself? Because they're coming.
It's coming.
And volume is coming.
Yep. We are excited about runes, and we're building runes. So we're building support for trading of runes for day one.
For day one?
Day one.
No way.
Let's fucking go.
That's how bullish we are. And you know what? Like that story I told you about an Airbnb, we're running it back for runes.
No
Let's
way.
Go.
Yeah. So after NFT NYC, literally, I'm going to get on a plane on Monday morning, and we're going to go to California, and I'm going to sit with our engineers.
Run it back.
And we're going to run it back.
No way.
Oh my God. Do you need like that to be captured?
I was going to say, like, if you want some IRL documentation, that would be super cool.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
Actually. Are you doing Northern California? Or
no, in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll fly up.
I was gonna say, hey,
we should make it happen. Yeah,
that could definitely be a thing.
Yeah.
Dude, so runes to me make a lot of sense in terms of like ordinals. We're seeing like we talked about Liquidium. You have all this ordinal lending that's coming in, adding functionality and efficiency to a meme coin market. And they don't have to be meme coins. It's just fungible tokens in general, right? Like you're talking about these BTC L2s that are like in the wings right now. Like we're waiting for that to happen. Runes just make sense.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, so there's definitely the meme coin stuff as like one category. But if you actually just take a step back and look at the evolution of even Ethereum, like what we always like laugh about the old coins and like 2017 ICOs and stuff, but what actually was that thing? That thing was basically teams can get funded.
That's
and then
exactly
go
what I'm
build a
thinking.
bunch of stuff, right? And then teams that were building natively on Ethereum could then get funded, which then made the ecosystem bigger, which then led to more developers. So it creates that flywheel.
Yeah.
And to me, that actually is one of the maybe like underappreciated things that I think could happen with runes. Like
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people are excited about meme coins because it's like, whoa, fundables on Bitcoin. That's
Yeah,
crazy. I'm like sweating thinking that too. But if you just take a step back, it's also, teams like Liquidium,
Yeah.
like BTC Machine.
These TGE events
There are
that they
a bunch
can.
of these teams now that have been grinding, building random things on Bitcoin over the years. Or it's maybe like developers who have been considering it, but maybe they're like, nah, it's better for me to go build on whatever L2 instead.
Yeah.
They'll be like, nah, you know what? I might go try and build on Bitcoin. And then they can launch a runes token if they want to, right?
They have that opportunity.
There's an optionality.
Yeah.
That didn't exist before. So I think that this could also catalyze the developer ecosystem in a way that we haven't seen
100%.
before. Yeah, that's actually like what makes me really, really bullish, actually.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, just even thinking about the opportunities that are going to exist for builders, like you're saying, like these TGE events for people across the ecosystem, whether it be on ETH or Sol or wherever, like that's how they make their money. And like Ben Roy put it the best, I think, like teams use TGE events as their nitrous oxide boost in Fast and the Furious. Like you have one of them, can't fuck it up, and you launch it at the right time, and it's just this massive boost of liquidity, this massive boost of like financial backing that you can get to kind of continue developing there, right? And that's going to attract way more builders to the space because as of right now, what can you do on Bitcoin aside from launching an ordinal project that's gonna cost you a shit ton of money to inscribe, right? Like I think there's a few big collections, and they're saying like it's into the millions of dollars for you to mint or to inscribe 10,000 pieces, right? Like it's a huge hassle for these teams. So
yeah, it's really interesting. Like we talk to a lot of the ETH creators pretty often, and who are wanting to do something on ordinals for the first time, and they have like I don't know, each image is like 2 megabytes or something.
Yeah.
And then that's going to cost like $5,000 individually to inscribe, which is just untenable, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but yeah, we are pretty excited. We think that this can be a huge catalyst. It may not all happen on day one of runes. Like I think it just takes some time for this thing to form and people to play around with it and see what they can do with it. Obviously, the first rune has been announced, Uncommon Goods from Casey, which is like a mint every day for the next 4 years, I think it is.
Right.
Wild.
Bro, that might not be good.
Well, let's close this out.
Yeah.
let's finish. Hold on.
On that note.
Hold on. On that note, runes, Bitcoin halvening, Bitcoin ETFs, absolutely insane. Like I think you are spot on when you're basically saying like this is a huge catalyst. I think we're going to see things that weren't able to be done before get done, and I just have chills. Like I think. Like I said, I got red pilled into NFTs a little bit later than everyone. And obviously, like figuring out what marketplaces to use, like Magic Eden, again, has become my go-to for all things Bitcoin. But I don't think I've ever been more bullish on a marketplace. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, Blur has Blur farming. OpenSea is doing whatever the fuck OpenSea is doing. And then you now have, like, Magic Eden that's touching so many different ecosystems in such meaningful ways, especially with things like the wallet, like I mentioned earlier. So I'm really glad you took the time to sit down and chat with us.
Thanks so much, guys. This was really fun. Yeah.
This
good to
between the earthquake, ordinals, runes, this has been an entertaining one.
The earthquake was just a sign of how bullish the world is.
Yeah, exactly. Zedd was like, we will have support for runes day one.
Bang!
And New York was like,
the crypto gods were like,
Unreal, bro. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Like, this is so much fun for us to get to riff, and it was nice getting to know you. And
likewise.
this conversation has made me bullish on Magic Eden, to be honest.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Thanks so
That's
much,
awesome.
guys.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this one as much as we have, because it's been literally quite thrilling on multiple different levels. But until the next one, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks
See
for
you
tuning
guys.
in.
Thank you.